I'm actually really excited also to talk about the statewide proposal that we put in. So I'm going to put that in the chat, and if for some reason you don't get it, let me know. Mike, I put the proposals in the chat and also the budget. They're two separate documents, so there should be three documents in the chat right
Okay, I see them.
now. Okay, great. Well, I was going to have us do an icebreaker, but since it's just the two of us, and we know each other, are you okay if I skip that?
Oh, we just did it. We did the song.
Yeah, that's right. Seriously, if we're starting off
That was
singing,
the icebreaker.
that's a
Just
good
the
thing.
two of us.
I love it. So just a couple things to check in about. I appreciate you being here today very much. And thank you to everybody who's coming into the recording later on and watching. It's just Mike and I holding down the Teach LARC fort today.
For the region.
That's right. One of the things that's really interesting, though, that we found out, you know how during the pandemic we had the CSU flexibilities with the EDU course, and each campus really was able to figure out if they were going to stay virtual or do blended.
Right.
We received notification from CSU that it is now CSU by CSU. It is not going to be a statewide memo. And so everybody who is partnering with the Cal State is going to have to talk to them directly to see what they're going to accept for those students with the fieldwork class. And so,
Okay.
good morning, Letty. Good morning.
Good morning.
It makes it kind of tricky. I was cracking up. I'm like, it's just me and Mike on today. So we were like singing and stuff to start off. But thank you for being here. We appreciate it so much. Good morning. We started off by talking about the CSU flexibilities, Letty, and something that personally was like a disappointment to me is the CSU system is not sending out a memo for system-wide flexibilities. Instead, it is now campus by campus. And so depending on what Cal States you're partnering with, you want to connect with them as soon as possible. I'm seeing different variations depending on the school site right now. So some school sites are requiring that the fieldwork class, like for the 45 hours of fieldwork, some of the CSUs are requiring that at least 20 of those hours take place in a traditional classroom. And then the other 25 are a mix of virtual and community-based organizations and kind of some other spaces to do fieldwork. But they're like for instance, that one is requiring some face-to-face. And so if you have partnerships that are not allowing those students in the classroom yet, it's going to get kind of tricky. So I apologize that there isn't a statewide memo on that. I was really hoping we were going to have that. But if you have any issues reaching out with your CSUs, or if like there's any discrepancies, like for instance, Central Valley emailed me yesterday, oh no, this morning, and said, we met with our CSU to talk about the fieldwork flexibilities, and it turns out they don't know about the P3 credential yet.
Oh, wow.
And I literally, I wrote back, Letty, I wrote back right away. I'm like, Fresno, are we talking about Cal State Fresno? Because Fresno is now being looked at as the model for the state of California, how to be teacher prep. So if the model, or one of the models of teacher prep, does not even have the new credential on the radar yet, that's highly concerning, you know, because we're looking at data that's showing that in like 2 years from now, we might need up to 15 to 16,000 TK teachers. The numbers are climbing for that credential. And so in terms of your CSU, just reach out as soon as possible. If you have any issues, let me know if I can be of help. I would highly suggest, like, if you collaborate with just the EDU people on your CSU campus, partner campus, I highly suggest you find a way to get both ECE and EDU together for a discussion, even if they don't want to, because we need to kind of streamline that as much as possible, you know, for our students. We will continue to have the Canvas shell. The EDU's community of practice will continue to provide additional resources as needed. We are tentatively looking at a Teach for LA conference, so that might be another opportunity for students. One of the biggest things I'm seeing that's a big shift, though, is, you know, you all know EDU, it's traditionally your fieldwork is with a credentialed teacher in a public elementary school classroom. Some of us use junior high and high school also as placements, but it really is that public school teacher, like it's a really kind of a traditional what it has to be. And now that we're looking, like some of our CSUs are considering community-based organizations. And I actually think this is the direction we need to go, because this will also lead our students into paid fieldwork eventually, or ways for us to turn fieldwork into paid opportunities, hopefully apprenticeship opportunities. The one caveat with this is that at community-based organizations, you cannot guarantee that there is a credentialed teacher on staff, yet alone a credentialed teacher that's kind of monitoring our student or kind
Yeah,
of checking.
usually there's not. I mean, usually it's, they're the ones in charge. It's interesting because when we had the leeway the last couple of years, that's been an option for me, especially last year. So they had 3 options to complete the fieldwork. They had the traditional model of working and observing a teacher. The second one was a portfolio, tons of videos, tons of modules that we put together, and then I put together as well. And then the third one was working for an after-school program or working in the community. And that one, they obviously couldn't observe someone else, but they had to kind of do some other assignments for that. And I felt like I at least wanted them to get some experience with working with kids. That was better to me than just doing a portfolio and watching videos, which, there was substance to it, but still, that would be interesting. I mean, they definitely can't observe, I think, most of the time a credentialed teacher, but they get so much out of it.
That's how I look at it too, Letty. Like I started in expanded care. I spent 3 summers as a camp counselor working with second graders and kindergartners. And I got to tell you, what I learned during that time was priceless. There were no credentialed teachers anywhere on our staff. You know what I mean? But we had 350 kids and a group of us trying to figure out how could we have engaging, fun activities during 115-degree weather. Do you know what I mean? When you have, and that's the kind of, like, you need to be able to think on the spot. And so I feel like with community-based organizations, there's so many skills that our students can gain that maybe we need to look at the COR for EDU and rewrite what that COR is. So that way it's more current with, what's happening in the field. I'm not sure exactly. I mean, I feel like we're still like in this limbo time, but unfortunately, knowing that we have to figure out CSU by CSU, I think is going to be tricky. But hopefully they'll be cooperative and we can all figure it out together. But I think kind of in the bigger picture, I think we need to think about, what does that EDU fieldwork look like moving forward? And, are we aligning it also with expanded care, other opportunities? If anyone is interested, I know for certain that Woodcraft is going to be looking for opportunities in fall. I've actually already targeted 3 different schools in our region that I think would be ideal for Woodcraft to try and like get some apprenticeships started with. And I'm not going to say them because I don't want anybody to feel bad because there's a lot of colleges I didn't target. There were very specific criteria and data that I pulled and said this might be a good match. But I really think that that the community-based organizations, expanded care, the funding is going to continue to just swell. We're now looking at what does a 9-hour day look like for students? How do they go to a classroom and then transition to an expanded care experience where they're continuing to learn? And by learning, I don't just mean the academics, but also the social emotional development as well. And so, it's a new time in education. And so please make sure you reach out to your CSUs. And if you have any issues, let me know. Or if you're not partnering with the CSU yet, like it's totally fine to be like, hey, I'm at X college and I don't have a CSU partner. Who should I be going to? Because we'll just help you network. And there's never any guilt with stuff like that. So don't ever think like I should be somewhere I'm not. Like, don't play that game with yourself or your program. Okay. I hope you guys know what I mean. Because I used to do that kind of stuff all the time. It's like, no. We just are where we are, and be okay with it. I love this. Laura has an 18-month-old. Laura, thank you so much for being here. I appreciate it. And sorry, everybody, too, that this was so late in the month. Summer has like escaped me. We started out with my son and I having COVID, and then we got healthy enough and we went on vacation, and we came back from vacation and my daughter got COVID. And then the next day after she was diagnosed, my son was diagnosed with bronchitis. And so it's just been, I'm not sure about you guys, but it's just been the shortest summer ever. Cause anyways, but I'm glad we're here today. I wanted to share with everybody too, In the chat, I just put up our system proposal, and I'm going to share screen with that so everybody can see it. I want to make sure everybody's 100% in the loop about this, just so that way if the opportunity ends up happening, that all of us can go out for it. So we wrote the CCC TPP wrote another statewide or system-wide proposal, basically asking for the chancellor's office to fund teacher preparation. We wrote a 5-year proposal that in total is the largest one we've ever written. It's $28 million. And the way that we structured it is putting together kind of a different system of teacher preparation. One of the things that we realize is there is a desperate need for cross-system collaboration. And a lot of it has been like us doing it informally. And so if this gets funded, this would formalize it and formalize it in a great way. So this is just the narrative. I put it in the chat. Anybody wants to read it, feel free to. It connects to Vision for Success. It connects to the roadmap. We've got all the references and all that kind of stuff that they want, you know, connecting to all the things we do, kind of what we offer and what we could offer, and also really getting that message across that we are a true cradle to career model of education. I'm going to jump though to the budget because I think I try to be really transparent. So make sure you read through the narrative if that interests you. If in the future you want to work on the narrative team for CCC TPP, please let me know. We keep it kind of close just because it's like a fast and feverish kind of moment where we're working on this. So on this round, we had Steve Bautista, Rosemary Wren, Kathleen White, me, Bobby Becca. I feel like there was one more person and I'm spacing out right now. Sorry if I'm leaving somebody off, but we worked for a couple weeks to put this together. And this is a proposal that's based on a prior proposal that Kath, Bobby, and I had submitted. But it's scaled substantially. So the initial proposal was this idea of creating hubs in the state, okay? Oh, and also 100% transparency, everybody. I am literally written in here as somebody hopefully who gets to lead the project. I'm just, you know what, I've been devoting a lot of time for many, many years now. And so I know within this project, like usually I'm funded to work, but with the larger TPP project, I haven't been funded since Education Futures at the end of 2019. So I've now been volunteering to bring everybody together the last couple of years. And I will continue to do that, but if the chance happens, I get a spot, I hope you guys understand. And like working with the team and Steve and everybody, I was like, I've got to be 100% honest. Like I've been working for years and I want to be involved. So, so there's the idea where there's a statewide lead, but there's also another statewide lead. Like it's more like there's a system lead and then there's a statewide lead. We really need that leadership in the chancellor's office. And then this is the part that's most exciting to me. This project funds 10 cross-system hubs across the state of California. They're not fully regional specific. That's why there's 10, because we know that certain areas need more than one hub. And the idea would be that this is a physical space in 10 different spots of California where across agencies, across systems, we are going to come together. So you'll see that we have like the coordinators plan for each hub. There's different money within each of the hubs for like computers and marketing and, you know, things like that. But then we also tried to fund things that were important that we've been doing again on voluntary for a while now. Our communities of practice, those have been 100% voluntary. We have a first generation student affinity group. We were able to pay people for 2 sessions of that. We want to keep that going. We have a lot of first generation students and they need specialized support. They don't just get thrown into all the other professional learning. And so we want to make sure that we really have that tied in. This other piece, and this is really exciting for me, and this is not a huge amount of money, but the idea is we want everybody to engage in teacher prep. So we've got 10 hubs. That's one option. The other options are we're going to have 3 different tiers of funding for up to every single college in the state. If you look at the numbers here, this is for 115 colleges, okay? So, and it's over 5 years. So there'll be 30 colleges that will be at the tier 1 level. There'll be more of like everybody who's on right now, you should qualify for tier 1 because you're more like you've been in TPP. This is not new to you. You need 50 grand a year to have different resources, at least paying a coordinator for like a part-time coordinator plus some other resources. We also have tier 2, and this is 40 campuses at $30,000 annually. And then we have a tier 3. Maybe we have 45 campuses who have not engaged in teacher prep. We know that we have over 90 lab schools, but at our max when in TPP, we had 26 campuses. So we want to just try and expand as much as possible. And that tier 3, that's $15,000 annually. The coolest thing about this too, this is a 5-year proposal. So while we're looking at this, $5.6 million, when it goes over 5 years, then it becomes $28.6 million. Biggest ask that we've done, I've got to tell you, we have some really great support. We had a letter of support that Steve Bautista was able to get. We also had the CIOs across the state review the proposal and make some suggestions and also say that they will give support to this as well. The CIOs thought that we should possibly quadruple the ask, which would have been beautiful, but there's no way they wouldn't. We've tried twice to get $5 million and they didn't give us 5. But we also didn't want to shortchange ourselves on this one because we knew that we needed to really, truly expand teacher prep in a whole different way. So I'm hopeful, everybody. It'll be interesting to see what happens. One of the fascinating things is we had already submitted a similar proposal, but not the exact same for this actual calendar year, 22 to 23. And we've never heard back. The first year we heard back, we didn't get it. We went up to Sacramento, we got to meetings, we were advocating, we were right at the very end and thought we were in good shape. And then they ended up taking the investment and putting it more towards COLA that year. But this last year, it was dead silence. I don't know how to describe it. We kept contacting the person at the chancellor's office and they're like, oh, the allocation hadn't been determined yet. So at this point, Bobby and I just figured, well, we're not going to get money for this year. This is for 23 to 24 and further. Interestingly enough, you guys, when we were working with one of the CIOs, he told us, this was at the beginning of July, he told us that his project for 22-23 had just been approved a week prior. So Bobby and I are still hopeful that we might get some funding for this year. And so, I'm not making budgets and stuff like that at this point, but now that we know that one of the other groups also didn't hear back, and when they did hear back, it wasn't a no, it was a yes. We're trying to kind of prepare. And so if we hear anything, we will let everybody know. It would end up being an RFA. If we end up getting the larger proposal for 23-24, that will be an RFA as well. I'm hoping I can be involved in that. I had the opportunity of being involved in our Education Futures RFA and the letter and everything. And so hoping to be involved in that again with this. So keep your fingers and toes crossed. Another thing too, any meeting you have with campus leadership or initiate a meeting with campus leadership, bring a copy of this proposal. Just want to make sure this is something that our team across the state has put into the chancellor's office. We absolutely need at least 1 to 2 of these hubs in the LA region. Let's start strategizing in case this funding comes through. If you're at, encourage your leadership. If you're at any table where there's discussion of this or opportunity to discuss it, encourage them to do so and tell them we need champions right now. We really need our leadership to stand up and to say, there's so much funding in teacher prep and none of it's coming to the community college system. Why? Because that's one of our problems right now. A lot of the money, a huge amount of the money is going to LEAs. And so, it's hard when it's all in the K-12 system because you can partner, but you're not going to lead something, which makes it tricky. Oh, interesting. Veronica asked if there's ways to allow for vouchers to give students as incentives for participating in the pathways. Veronica, that's a fascinating thing actually, because one of the things we want to do is with the higher tiers of colleges, we want to have some sort of mentorship included at that 3rd level tier. So I wonder if we could consider figuring out a way to do vouchers within that. Do you know what I mean? Like if they get engaged and maybe it's a 10-hour engagement or something like that, you know? I think that's something that we could consider. It hasn't been written in at this point, but that doesn't mean that we can't, like, we tried to write the proposals in categories and in ways where there's some flexibility and autonomy, but guidance. Do you know what I mean? So we don't try and have it so strict and stringent that we can't move monies around. We're always thinking about how can we move monies around to kind of maximize the investment. So Veronica, I think we can definitely, if we end up getting this funding, I think we should definitely consider that because that's the direction we all need to move. We really need to move into how do we pay our students for the work that they're doing? It's time to be done with this free stuff. Our practicum, our field work, anytime they're working with students, let's get them paid. Let's see. Oh, Veronica, I think your microphone's not working right now, so I hope you don't mind me reading for you. I was just speaking with colleagues yesterday who have grants in their areas, and the comment about what students need for success, the idea that students need money to make time for them to focus on their class requirements, 100% true. And especially with everything going on in the economy right now. I'm sure we're all in the same boat. Has your salary changed? Not at all, right? Has your gas bill changed? Has your electric bill changed? Has your water changed? How much are your groceries costing right now? Right? Everything is more than people can afford. So any ways that we can get money to our students, yes. Any ways we can get free resources to our students. I've been really impressed with the LACCD colleges, how they've been marketing, how they're starting off the new year. Has everybody been watching that? Everything that they're putting out, okay, is like saying, if you come to our 9 colleges, you get free tuition, you get a free laptop, you get a free bus pass. They're literally listing all the things that you get for free if you go to their colleges. And I think that's what we're going to have to do because they're not showing it. And I think, is everybody in the same boat right now? Enrollment still? Because we're having major issues. Groups that during the pandemic maintained enrollment have now dropped. And so even the groups that felt safe, you know what I mean, or the programs that felt safe are now in jeopardy. Actually, let's talk for a minute. How is everything going with enrollment for your campuses? And also, are you able to do many face-to-face at this point? Or are the students who are coming still coming more for a virtual experience? Anybody willing to share?
Yeah. Over at Pierce, yeah, majority are virtual. So it seemed like I don't have the recent numbers, but I know early spring, during spring, it was 40% capacity on campus, and I think it may have dropped even towards the end of spring. I'm not totally sure, but we're trying to do more outreach. I know LACCD, they're trying to do registration Saturdays and all that, but yeah, so yeah, they're numbers are down, and I think that we have to start promoting, just like what we were just discussing, promoting like a business. So we have to market like a resort. Hey, we have all the amenities. We have a swimming pool and we have a gym, and we work out here. We have to start talking about the benefits of being on campus, because education is not exciting by itself. And then students come and then they beat themselves up with the books, they studying, and then it's grueling. We need to relieve some of that stigma and just say, hey, there's free this and free lunch and free concerts and different things just to lighten their load. Because studying is just you could get bombarded, and especially during this pandemic time, it's even worse. So, but yeah, so having to say all that, yes, we're down.
I think I almost feel like the culture of school and education is down right now, though, too. I was reading this morning about a new like TikTok thing where kids are they're talking on TikTok about going to get their back to school necklace. Have you guys heard about this yet? Guess what?
No.
Guess what a back to school necklace is for the high school and children that are saying this on TikTok? It's a noose. It's a
Oh,
reference to a
no.
noose. It's a reference to a noose to return to school. What has education become?
Mm, yeah.
Kids are in bad shape right now, you guys. And our college students too. Um, I'm worried about the lack of engagement. And the lack of engagement, it almost feels like there's a lack of hope. I was talking to one of the deans on one of our campuses earlier this week, and she said, I try so hard to help my students be hopeful for the future. And I talked to one of my students and I said, don't you want to save for the future? That's really important that you can do that. And he goes, why would I save for the future? I watched my dad work his entire life to save for us and to have a business. I watched my dad work to have a pension. I watched my dad do all this stuff. And guess what happened with the pandemic? He lost all of it. He saved for 35 years and he lost all of it. So why would I do that? And the dean said, she goes, for the first time in my entire career, I didn't know how to respond to him. I didn't know what to say to him. And she said our students are lacking hope right now. Mike, I think it also does have to go back to marketing too. And I love that idea of the resort. Within the statewide proposal, we absolutely put funding for the teaching is my plan A marketing plan. I also think we should do a plan that says bilingual and bachelor's teaching is for you, because with the P3 credential, we can streamline people and we need more bilingual teachers and whatnot. But I think, like you said, the resort idea. I was in Vegas for a couple days this week working on a grant with Bobby, and we were at the Mirage, and I was in the pool one morning, and I literally looked around. I was like, "Gosh, this place is so beautiful," but I won't take my kids here because my kids love water slides. And I bet the other resorts probably have water slides. I should look around and see who's got a water slide for the next time I come here. So here, Mike, I was in a beautiful spot. I had a lot of resources, but there was still one piece that I was desiring that made me think I need to go elsewhere next time. So I almost wonder if taking that resort approach to the marketing might be a smart strategy. Because they're not showing up, and I'm looking at everybody's responses in the chat right now. Is there anybody else who'd like to share? Unmute and share. Seems like it's mixes here. Oh, Letty, would you talk about the struggling at the halfway point?
Yeah, I meant like in terms of enrollment. So I'm teaching two sections, several courses, but the one that I can very closely compare is I'm teaching two sections of the Intro to Elementary Teaching. One of them I'm offering online synchronously. The other one I'm offering in person. And the synchronous one on Zoom, that one filled up, and I have a waiting list of about maybe 5 or 6 students. The one that is in person is struggling at kind of the mid-mark of enrollment. And so far, it looks like my dean hasn't necessarily said, that they're going to cancel it. But I wonder, right, if I were to switch it to online, right, how many more students would then want to take that class? And so I'm just nervous about that, because I definitely want to teach a class in person, but I think, but I'm also comfortable teaching online as well. I know that some of our students deeply crave to be on campus, and I felt that last semester when we transitioned back to in person, and some of them kept talking about how much they missed it. And so I'm just trying to figure out how much to offer, how much to not, because I also have some other students who really like the online flexibility, and it's the only way that they would be able to take the class. So yeah, I think that's across the board, I'm sure, for a lot of folks, but that's my experience, at least at PCC, and trying to figure out how to build and grow a program that has been steady for the last couple of years, but hasn't grown in the way that I wanted to.
Letty, do you think there'd ever be a possibility? I don't know if this is even feasible, but imagine we had 2 sections and we took the registration and put them into one, okay? And imagine that we had like the class online and the professor's being paid for 2 classes, not 1 class, okay? Imagine that we put the enrollment all online, but then opened up a once a week face-to-face that people could drop into. Do you even like, could that, because I feel like if people came back and had options to not be there every single week, that could work. Oh, I see LACCD is high flex. Are they doing that though, where it's 2 parallel classes? Are you guys seeing that at all?
We're also going to do high flex at Santa Monica, but it's a class. It's not like two.
Yeah, it's not 2, right? So it's like, so with the 1 class, how does that work then? Is it like every other week is going to be face to face? How are they going to do that?
They're still working that out. Those little details. But no, it's really by choice. I mean, the students can or don't come. They decide if they're coming to show up in person, or their instructor is going to do their part. And then it's up to the students. They don't have to commit early on if they're going to only do it online or do halftime. So
it'd be interesting to see what the data is on the high flex classes, to see
Yeah.
like if students start and eventually like if they start in the virtual space and eventually come into the face-to-face at least a little bit, or if it's like the opposite where they come to 1 or 2 face-to-face and that's it, then we lose them
Right.
into the virtual space for the rest of the
Yeah.
semester.
Yeah. I do like that. I mean, we haven't done a hybrid class yet. I mean, this sounds a little bit different, the high flex part, but even, you know, this summer I've been working mostly remotely, and yesterday I went on campus because I felt like I needed to go into an office and needed the structure. And there was an event on campus. I ran into a couple coworkers, and just even that connection that I didn't quite realize that I was missing until I was actually in it. I think that's something that, at least maybe not for my education classes just specifically, but for the program as a whole, I'm thinking of doing maybe like an open house at the beginning of the semester, and trying to entice some, you know, a handful of students to come on to our campus and just get to know each other, and trying to figure that piece out. So yeah, it's been tricky. It's been hard. I think for sure a lot of our programming is going to remain online, just because it seems to also be a good thing for students to be able to hop into a Zoom and hear a panelist or a teacher talk. But trying to figure out how to make use of our space, because what I'm realizing is if we don't use the space, we run the risk of losing it.
Yep.
And that's something that I'm trying to also figure out the politics of it also. Yeah.
I've lost space over the years, Letty. So if you ever want to talk about it offline, I could share things with you, because that's a
Thank you.
very strange thing when it happens, and to navigate it is really tricky, you know, especially depending on where you are within the hierarchy, you know? Yeah. Veronica put something interesting too, not being paid for 2 sections, which that's a big problem if we're going to be teaching in 2 different, you know, spaces. And then also the training for the OWL device. Does everybody have OWLs on their campuses now? Pretty much? Good, 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 good. Okay, and if anybody needs a resource like that or something, please let us know, because we want to make sure that you've got what you need in order to do that kind of multi, you know, face-to-face, and you're online, and you're this, and you're taped, and you're synchronous, and you're asynchronous, and you're high flex, and you're this. Other duties as assigned, right? One thing too, and I know that we probably technically aren't supposed to share this with students, but every college student I meet, I talk to them about Rate My Professor. They don't realize that they can go online and have an idea about the different types of people that are teaching their classes. And I know it's not vetted. I get it. But I hope everybody checks themselves out. And like, the reality is, like, unless you've got somebody trying to attack you, you know what I mean? Which I haven't seen on that space. Usually it's pretty accurate. You know, you might have 1 or 2 students that didn't sit right in your class, but then you have 30 that show that you did a good job. And so that's what I tell people, like, you know, there might be 1 or 2 that you know, disagree with the professors, but if you log on to Rate My Professor and they have 45 negative comments and there's somebody else teaching the class, go to the other professor. And I, you know, again, I don't want to, like, it's hard. I'm just trying to give power to the students to figure things out for themselves, and places where they can get this kind of information, because they're You know, we think that they're coming in with pathways and they're good to go. How many students are coming to you with solidified pathways out of high school? Maybe if we're lucky, 1 out of 10, right? If we're lucky. And so we got to meet students a little differently right now. Anybody who's got any innovative ideas, or if anything comes up in this space, please share it, because I think all of us are kind of struggling trying to figure out what to do, what's right for them. Okay, next thing on our agenda, Teach for LA. So we had something interesting happen this week with SWP funds. I was meeting with the dean at El Camino to say, here's our spending plan for the last remaining $11,000 that we had in the grant. And a couple things. It turned out that my campus had money available before I knew it, and that some of the money that we were spending out was actually on an old SWP grant. So it looks like El Camino might have maybe $40,000 left to spend, or $30,000 left to spend. So that was a little surprising. The other piece, and I need to get clarification on this, because based on everything that I had been told with the funding that we all have, I was told that initially it was supposed to end, and then they extended it till the end of September. And then I thought all of us need to be spent out by the end of September, right, for these the 2021 funds. And then this Monday, somebody told me that it looks like that money goes until December of 23. So I know, and it's not like any of us had a ton of money. It really wasn't a lot per campus, but I'm still waiting to try to get a memo that says that, because I just heard it word of mouth from a dean. It's a dean that I trust, though. I don't want to imply I don't trust this person, but I was really surprised. And so I'm sorry that I don't know more information at this point. She was going to look into some stuff, and then we're going to meet probably next week or the week after to kind of make sure that, you know, we're all on the same page. But there's a chance that we might have a little more funding than we thought, and that we might have a little more time to spend it as well. And so I will let you know. There's also one of the things I said, I was like, did somebody like allocate money to us and we don't know? And she said, that's another possibility too. When you have a successful project, if there's like other funds available, sometimes it could be possible. So anyways, I will look into that again and see what more I can find out. I have got to tell you, SWP, it's like I don't know how to describe it. It's just its own train. And it's like, I go to the meetings and sometimes I feel like I'm not even in the loop, and I go every single month. I don't know. So anyways, once I have more specific information, I will let you know. There is a chance though that we have a little bit more funding than we thought. Not a ton. It might be like $30,000, you know. And so I shared that our priorities, how we wanted to fund Yadira with a stipend for her work for the project. That was denied. And so Yadira will stay on as our El Camino contact. She has been the contact on this funding since February of 21, and the entire time was unpaid. Unfortunately, she wasn't written. We thought that she was going to be full-time on another grant, and so they wouldn't allow us to write her into this grant. The other grant didn't put her at full-time, and they didn't allow us to switch this grant. And I've asked every time. So I appreciate the region saying that was a priority, because it was nice that it wasn't just coming from me, but it was denied. We did talk about how we want to do Teach for LA and some of the other things, and it seemed like all of that was good with her, but we need to get it like officially finalized. But I wanted to talk about Teach for LA. You know, originally we thought that we had till September 31st, and I was planning to run it in September. Teach for the Bay is running in September. Also, Teach for Antelope Valley will be running in September as well. And so I wanted to ask everybody, if this funding doesn't, like if I don't have to be spent out by September 31st, what does everybody think about possibly moving Teach for LA a little bit later in the semester? Is anybody like opposed to that? Or whatever, because I feel like if we've already got 2 different free conferences for our students in 1 month, I don't know if it's worth it to shove ours in as well, or to just, you know what I mean? So, or maybe do something in October or November, so there's another event. So any thoughts on that, everybody?
I'm with you. That makes total
Okay.
sense to spread it out, because we've done it in November and October before. As far as I've been with the group, we've never done it as early as September. So I think that's overload. I think October and November for us makes more sense.
Okay. And honestly, Marina, it would be so much easier for me because I help with all the, I mean, like, I'm like on every conference, it feels like sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. Anybody else have any comments about that or any thoughts that they want to share? Okay, it looks like everybody's okay with that. I'm seeing some heads nod. With Teach for LA for fall, is there any specific presenters or topics we want to make sure that we include? You know, I usually base what the event is. I create it based on what the evaluation was from the prior event. And so kind of like there's certain things that are fundamental that we want to have. You know, we want to make sure we have how do you get a credential? How do you get a child development permit? How do like these base like some of those basic pieces. But last time, you know, we did like Mindy came in and did something on a child life specialist. We had over 100 people show up to that breakout session. Like, and that's another piece too. Do we want to run things that we had really good, like really strong participation in? Like, I don't know. What do you think? AB 130, absolutely, Veronica. And a school district or CTC person, I totally agree with you. And that's another thing too. We can go to the commission, we can go to Department of Ed, we can go to any of these agencies if we want them to come in and do sessions as well. So any thoughts on that, or anything that like we want to get on the radar kind of early in terms of the conference this fall?
Well, if we've had those successful breakout sessions that were really, really well attended, then people talked about it afterwards. If there wasn't a second one to go to, so I would think those could be some of the ones that we do as well, because they've already told their friends,
yeah,
this is the one I went to, but now I didn't make that one. So I think those would be, I think, low-hanging fruit.
Perfect. And Laura, I keep track of enrollment on every single one of our breakouts because it's fascinating to me. You know, they have like so many variables. So sessions that we know have been successful in the past, we should consider rerunning in this one as well. I love that. Do we also want to keep an equity-minded kind of focused conference? We've done that the last couple. To me, it seems like it makes sense in LA. Is everybody okay with that? Is anybody opposed to it? We're good. Okay. Want to make sure that that's just some social justice is something we're lining our students up as early as possible. Good. Okay. Any other thoughts for Teach for LA? Another thing too, we could consider hiring a keynote. I love keynotes. The only challenge is they're expensive. And so, you know, when we've got like $100,000, it's no biggie. But if we're looking at like a $20,000, $30,000, a keynote can take up, you know, 10 or more % of that amount. So we could also look at a keynote that might be more reasonable, you know, maybe somebody within our system. Yeah, Mike.
Yeah, I was just thinking about employment, an employment workshop.
Yes.
We're also working with we contracted with this company called Network Connections, who does our employer engagement component and working with students, preparing students with resumes and things like that. Just internship and job opportunities. So I think that'll be ideal, and that's something that students can also relate to, because hey, how do you know how do you find a job that's in your path, and what jobs are out there?
Yeah.
You know, and what type of jobs are out there? You know, what classes do I need to get to this job? What, you know, just it could go on and on. But employment opportunities, who's hiring?
I love it.
Yeah, it can really go on and on with the different options of that workshop.
You know, I think that's actually really like incredibly helpful on like a lot of different levels. One of the things that I think is fascinating with this new P3 credential, you know, students are going to need to get 24 units of ECE. It looks like it'll be 12 units lower division, 12 units upper division, though I don't think that's been finalized at this point. But the marketing of that already, I've seen confusion. Within my community, there was a newspaper article that said, become a TK teacher. You know, we need you to take 24 units and blah, 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 come and talk to us. There was not one mention in the article that it's a bachelor's degree plus 24 units. The entire article made it sound like you could be a TK teacher on a K through 12 salary with 24 units of ECE. And so that to me was scary, because I was watching people make chat, like, you know, connecting each other on it. And I'm like, this is misinformation, you know, like, and the person who was doing the article, they don't know. And the school, they thought they're just sharing about this new, you know, they were excited to share. but that one little piece that's missing, that's significant, you know? And so, Michael, the idea of having what kind of jobs are out there, what kind of classes do you need for the different job? I mean, we could even break that down. We might even want to break that down into the P3 credential and K-12 because there's going to be opportunities in P3 for people to get hired as they are, like, you know, going along in their training. Okay, I'm making notes. I see also, Marini, if we're virtual, there isn't much cost to the conference. Would that give us more latitude to pay for a keynote? Absolutely. If we stay virtual, that is a significant difference on the cost. Plus, you know, how many people can attend? You know, so and I think we should probably stay virtual for fall at this point. We might want to consider a face-to-face later. I don't think we should yet. Unless, and if you guys disagree, please tell me. Like, feel free to say, like, no, Renee, you're wrong. Like, it's okay.
No, Renee, you're right.
Thank you, Marini. I feel like we're not quite there yet. Maybe in spring, hopefully. Maybe. Michael, what would you want to say?
Yeah, I just wanted to add, what if we have an actual employer at some point that's hiring, that's looking for, they have 2 positions open or 100 positions open, whatever it is, that's actually hiring, and students can apply for that position even during the actual event.
Wow.
You know,
Oh
they
my
could
God.
apply for it, or, you know, so I think
some
that's,
sort of like live. Oh, that's interesting. So are you saying almost like a job fair?
hey, why not?
That's an
Why
interesting
not?
idea.
Yeah, it'll turn into that eventually, especially when the word gets out that someone was actually interviewed or hired.
Yeah, you know what? There's so many positions within our industry right now. Actually, just FYI, everybody who's on right now, if you are in a position in your career where you want to consider other options, please know that Department of Ed, Commission on Teacher Credential, like everybody's rolling out really good positions right now. So, you know, we want to make sure everybody can continue to grow professionally, not just our students. If anybody wants to go out for something else, let me know. If I can be of any help, I'd be happy to help you. And they're getting to the point where they're like they're looking, they're really actively looking. Marini, what did you want to say?
As you know, since I asked for help and Veronica knows, I'm teaching the school age classes in the fall, so CD 46 and 47. And so far the enrollment is pretty high. Like both classes have over 20. They're online, but both are over 20. So that's exciting. So I was going to say, I know we've done it in the past, but if we can bring in some aftercare providers to
Absolutely.
present, you know, I know you have a good relationship with Woodcraft Rangers. If we can maybe bring in some other folks, I don't know, Star, Beyond the Bell, City Year. I know there's a whole bunch of different programs, ARC, ARC. So maybe if we can do that, that would be helpful too, since there seems to be an interest, at least on our campus, those classes have been dormant for many, many years. So I guess now students are, you know, excited to take those classes that have not been offered for a while.
I wonder if students are aware that the pay has gone up too. I don't know if they are. Marini, do you have boys and girls close by too? I feel like I want to assume that, but I probably shouldn't.
Well, we probably do, but that's not one of the more common ones in like my local district area that I've heard of, but I'm sure that it's still around.
Okay. No, then let's go with the common. So you mentioned Beyond the Bell, ARC. Can you say the other ones that you said too?
Yeah, STAR, STAR. We have STAR at my son's school. I can maybe see if I can get somebody to present. They're great. I said ARCs. There's City Year, Woodcraft Rangers. I don't know if City Year is still around. I know that they were a few years ago in several schools that I was affiliated with.
What if we
Think Together was one. I don't know if Think Together is still around.
Okay. What if, this is really interesting because one of the things that we have flexibility with is the format of Teach for LA. So we could literally do like an entire day on employability and after school, or a half day. Like, I mean, we could structure this in a different way. You know what I mean? What do you think? Maybe it wouldn't be worth it to do that. Maybe we could just embed a couple things within. Oh, reading partners is voluntary, you said? There isn't paid opportunities there?
No, I just realized, so we provide, that's part of the work that we're doing is we're providing scholarships. It used to be called stipends, now we have to call them scholarships because it's a certain amount, but for students who complete some hours with them, but that's on our end. They're voluntary.
Okay, interesting. Well, we should keep them in the loop though, like, because that might be another piece later on, you know? Okay, well, I like this idea, and I think this is absolutely something that we could include within Teach for LA. And it would be something that would be useful for everybody.
One
Yeah.
thing I was going to say too, which we've kind of done before, to Michael's idea about the employability and having employers come in. So then, depending on how many days we do it. So like if we're doing a 3-day training conference, and maybe on the first day we can do something on like resumes and interviews. Because there was an interview session that we did, I don't know, last year or something, and I attended, and it was really great because some of the participants, they did like mock interviewing right on the spot, and then they were given feedback, which I thought was great. So if we were going to do, employers coming to hire, then I think it would be helpful to have those preparatory sessions earlier in the conference to help prepare participants.
I love the idea of the mock interview with the feedback too. And I think that we can probably do that. And I think a lot of people would benefit from that. And I like the idea too of like a building of the employability skills and not, like not just have the employers there, but including those skills along the way
Yes,
as well.
yes. Yesterday I sat in, I was on a panel, we're hiring a child development center teacher, and we had full day, we had like 9 interviews lined up. So it's very fresh in my head, as we're discussing the candidates and all the different things that you look at in their demo lesson and their application packet, and all of the things that you want to prepare future teachers to know and do so that they can be successful. We had great, well, I guess I'm not supposed to talk about it, but anyway. I
Glad there
think
was good candidates and glad you had good people applying, because that's one of the challenges right now is when we have good positions and we don't have the people going out for them that we need that are the match. So it's better to have an abundance there, right?
Yep, absolutely.
Oh, this is interesting. Mission's having an in-person 3-day career exploration camp. It's now 10 spaces left and any community member who wants to matriculate. Veronica, do you want to send that flyer to me and I can send it out to the region? Like, is there a flyer like website that we could share with everybody? I know that your camera and things aren't working today, so if you can put it in the chat, that'd be great. Or if there's any way we can communicate it with the region, let's get those 10 spots filled. A career exploration camp, that's interesting. Do they get units? How does that work? Oh, look, she already just put it in the chat. Great. I really thought with the pathways, it would get our students ready by the time they come to us. And the reality is the high school students are freaking out. They need more time to explore, to figure out who they are. Not many of them know who they are by the time they're 17 years old. Which, you know what? I didn't know who I was at 17. I don't know about you guys, so I understand where they're coming from. Okay, thank you so much for the conversation. On the agenda, I know we're coming on time right now too, and I apologize that we're going shorter today. We had an SWP check-in. I'm sorry I kind of did that just a little bit earlier, letting you know what was going on with it. Is anybody having any issues with their SWP funds, or any questions or concerns or anything that has come up? Sorry to like spring it on you that there now might be another different due date. I'm sure everybody's like done with their money at this point, but any comments or anything about SWP? Okay, once I know more, I'll share it. Again, I was shocked when I went in that meeting this week. One of the things for everybody to know too, with me working at El Camino as a consultant, I don't have access to Colleague, which is where all the budgets live. So I have to go through other people to see where my budgets are at. And so that's why I didn't know that there was another set of funding that we had been working off of, because I didn't know that they had any extra money left over. Anyway, sorry about that. I still won't have permission for Colleague, but hopefully after I meet with the dean again, I'll have a better sense of what we've got. And I basically just shared, here's our priorities. And based on what we said as a region, that's how we're going to spend out the funds. And honestly, if we end up having $30,000, that will allow us to have an additional, Teach for LA in spring, and some other resources available. If anybody has any questions about SWP, you can always reach out. Sorry, I don't know everything. Like I said, I do go to the monthly meetings, but it's an interesting beast to me. I want to talk for a little bit about fall with our Teach LARC meetings. I was planning to do a survey to see what works best for everybody, but just wanted to get a kind of feel for it. If we want to go for, we've traditionally been meeting 2 hours each month for the last couple of years. Wanted to know if we want to stay in a 2-hour format or try and cut it down or meet more frequently, or just get a sense of what everybody feels in terms of our monthly meetings. And basically whatever we say here, I will use to create the survey that goes out to everybody in the region. So any thoughts on that?
I feel like the current format for me feels fine if we're meeting once a month and 2-ish hours. It seems like we usually fill up that time. Of course, if we can make it more, if we can condense it to 1:30, that's great. But I guess it just depends on how we're feeling about how that time is used. I feel like we usually need that amount of time. So I vote for monthly, but longer versus more regular, because there's always going to be so many conflicts when you do more frequent meetings.
Okay, great. And then I saw Veronica put current format is fine, 1 time a month, Friday's probably best. I see Mike's thumb up too. I'm thinking, well, traditionally, like I put out the survey and we end up at the same day, and we've ended up at the same time. So it'll be interesting to see what everybody says. I'll put in a couple other days though, just in case. And then before we get to, I'm sorry, I know that it's right at 10 now too. I apologize. Before we get to some campus updates and discussion, I just want to share 2 things real quick with everybody. And I know we've already spoken a little bit about campus updates in terms of fall and whatnot, but wanted to let everybody know that we have the CCC AOE conference coming up in October at the Omni in Rancho Mirage, and it's from October 5th to October 7th. I wanted to let you know that we didn't submit Teach LARC for that one, but we submitted 2 TPP proposals. And so at this point, they haven't told us we're in, but they've asked us if we would do the social. So I'm assuming that we're in. And so once I get that official, I'll let everybody know. But and at this point, I don't know what day we'll be doing the social, but we will be hosting a very fun party at this event. Last year at this conference, we had proposed a 4-hour party, and we brought a ton of food, karaoke, we had giveaways. We tried to make it as fun as possible. And we ended up having a 7-hour party that about 70 people attended. So I'm assuming this is going to be another long karaoke, fantastic party. And I'm hoping, since a lot of us are in Southern California, even if you don't come to the conference, maybe you'd be okay coming for the night. The place that since I'm the person that hosts the party, they put me in a big suite. So if for some reason you want to come and maybe you don't want to get a room, there's plenty of couches. I could definitely have a couple people hanging out. Like it was huge. The space was huge. And so just want to put it out there. If anybody would like to come. The second thing too, I want to call your attention to, the Ccte Fall Conference is happening in San Diego from October 20th to 22nd. That's the California Council on Teacher Education. And their proposal period is still open. Their proposals are due in August. And I just want to throw it out there because Ccte traditionally has way more 4-year presence than community college presence. And the council is intended for community college and 4 years to be working together. So I think it'd be really strategic for us to beef up our presence at this conference. I'm planning to submit a proposal. I have not done so yet. It's going to be a proposal that most likely will be on the P3 credential, and I'll be probably asking some partners from CTC and or CDE to also present, though it is a face-to-face conference. So just want to throw that out there. But anyone want to share about their campus or anything going on with updates or anything good happening, bad happening, anything happening for next year? Or is it also that everybody's still in summer? Because it is July still. We should all still be on summer at this point. So, but any thoughts about your programs?
I can share quickly. We have 2 community of practices going on at West. It's a push that they're doing in LACCD. So we have one for accessibility and one for culturally responsive teaching and learning. So I'm facilitating the culturally responsive teaching and learning community of practice. And we had 3 Summer Institute days in July. We had about 22 participants. Most faculty members chose to do both accessibility and COP. They were able to get a stipend for the CRTL COP. We're using our Title V stipend, but the accessibility one's coming from a different, like a district pot. So that's something that's kind of exciting. Basically, we're using Zaretta Hammond's Culturally Responsive Teaching and the Brain. Participants are also getting Geneva Gay's Culturally Responsive Teaching book. They're getting the Feldman Grading for Equity book, and then they're getting Bettina Love's We Have to Do More Than Survive. And so they have to come up with an action plan for something that they're going to implement throughout the semester. And it's for faculty and staff. So folks who don't have a classroom as well. And then we're going to meet 3 times in the fall, and they have to implement their plan. They have to provide evidence of their plan, and then they have to reflect on their implementation. So that's kind of exciting. It was a lot of work. I was asked to do it because no one else would do it. So I put it together, 9 hours of PD in a short period of time. So I'm exhausted, but it was good. And also we are wrapping up our promotional video filming. We just came on campus on Wednesday with Lawrence to do some videotaping to promote our teacher pathways and our child development programs. We need more B-roll footage. I'm learning all the lingo. We needed more B-roll footage. So our teacher pathways program, one of the things that is a perk for students is that they get to take advantage of free laptop loans. And so we kind of simulated like they're hanging out at the bookstore and they're shopping for books, and then they're getting their laptop and they're so happy and excited. It was very fun. Seeing students in person, to your point, was great. I paid each student, there were 3, $25. I just did it on my own because I was finding no one was, I'm like, hey, we need a few students on a Wednesday for 2 hours. And I offered the $25 from the get-go, and I barely scraped together 3 students. So that was a little rough, but I'm glad I got 3 students, and it was so much fun. And Lawrence was great for, morale, and he's just so inspiring and motivating and positive. So the students really had a great time. So I know Leticia was saying earlier how it's nice to come on campus and get to just connect with students. And yeah, so those are a couple of updates too. Oh, one more thing. We have a child development tutor. I think I mentioned before, child development specific tutor, which is a big deal. And she's great. One of the challenges was, so we had hired 5 tutors, all great candidates. And then our district said, well, the chancellor said, well, all work study students have to work in person only. And when we had interviewed students, we had given them the option to be remote or in person. And most students wanted to do remote. And then once we found out about this mandate, we were only left with 1. Now they've kind of changed a bit. The policies have changed. And so our district says, well, because there was a lot of pushback, which I'm glad, they were responsive. They said, okay, well, as long as there's someone in our learning center every day, and as long as each tutor comes to campus once a week, then we can have some flexibility, because it made no sense. There were no students on campus. So you're literally making tutors come to campus. They're getting paid basically minimum wage. They have to be full-time students. It makes no GD sense, sorry, but they have like all these things. You're setting them up for failure. You're not going to get quality people. You're not supporting the students. So you're making them come to campus, but then they can tutor students who are virtual. So the students can be at home, but you're making the tutors come to campus while also saying you have to be a full-time student, and we can only pay you $15 an hour. And we even tried to say if we can use some of our Title V funds to like give them a little extra money. And we were told no, because this is a set salary for all students with student workers with this qualification. And so we weren't able to do that. So I'm just like, okay, you're setting, who's going to want to tutor? A lot of tutors left who had been there for years and years because now they can't work remotely or even hybrid. So anyway, we're just glad we have 1 who's great. Now the goal is to make sure that students use her so that we can even justify bringing tutors on. So hopefully right now it's slow in the summer. Hopefully in the fall we'll have more activity.
Interesting. Really interesting. The whole like virtual versus face-to-face piece is fascinating to me. But I love that you've got a specialized child development person. Marini, is that person bilingual by chance?
Yes, she is.
Fantastic.
Yeah. She's a
Excellent.
sweetheart. Yeah.
Excellent. That's wonderful. That's wonderful. There's a lot of opportunities in early care too. So if you're working with people that you feel like should elevate you know what I mean? And maybe there's not opportunities to elevate in that lane on your campus, let me know if you'd like us to try to help them. You know, it's hard because we want everybody, like, we want every campus to be good and solid, but it's also like we want people to have that mobility and to have that ownership of their career. And you don't want anybody to ever feel trapped, including any of us. That's
Yep.
important. So thank you so much, Marini.
Sure.
Mike or Laura, anything you want to share about stuff going on your campuses?
Yeah, we're still working on the partnership with CCRC.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we're trying to do the apprenticeship. So that's in the works, and we're looking at this one grant that would also help the program, a CAI grant. So, but that's it for right now. That's
Interesting.
more than enough. More than enough.
If you need another group in addition to CCRC, I know Woodcraft would love to partner with you on apprenticeships because they absolutely need your students. They geographically, they absolutely need Pierce students. So I don't
Okay,
know if you'd
perfect.
be up for having that kind of a conversation. And an interesting thing, if you are working with CCRC on the grant,
Mhm.
Woodcraft is bringing me in to help them write the grants. So I could help to write the grant if that would be of
Okay.
interest. Yeah.
Okay, that's good. So we'll work with our child development department, because you already met Trish Dulich,
Yes.
Patricia. Yeah, so we'll connect and we'll work on that.
Excellent,
Yeah.
excellent, excellent.
Okay.
I also
Cool.
told my dean at El Camino that Pierce might be the next college that takes over SWP. And so I just said, we'll work it out once we figure it out. But
Okay.
she was like, oh, that's great. So she was super supportive. So that was good.
Great, great.
Laura, anything that you want to share about your campus?
Again, we also are working on some partnerships for apprenticeship and see how that can develop. And we're also, our big focus is building community building with our new lab school. Because now we're going to have more and more students. We have a few students still not because of COVID stuff, but to build and ramp that up more. So we're having more students do their hours there. So that's
Nice.
kind of our two big focuses.
I had a friend who ran a really successful preschool in Santa Monica years ago. If I'd be happy to reach out if you need any help making like partnerships or whatnot. I don't live in Santa Monica.
Oh no, this is our lab school.
Oh, excellent.
This is our lab school that we had built. We had a brand new lab school built. Fantastic. And we have Growing Place is the operator. And we're just, because of COVID, how you have all these great plans of staff development and all the other thing is kind of now that things are just settling a little bit, now that's our focus to really, so that we're one voice when we talk about the workforce and things like that.
Excellent. Excellent. That's great. That's great. I love Growing Place too. It's a good group of people. Like that's, smart group to be working with. So that's awesome. Laura, I thought you retired.
I did. June 15th, I did.
What happened? So then did they keep you on like retainer or?
Oh, I help. I just don't get paid.
Oh my gosh, that is cracking me up. It's like, yep, the duties as assigned, but we're not employed.
Exactly. Because I'm still vested in that program. I think we're a great group of people. I love what we do. I love our field as a whole. We just hired a new ed person, so I want to mentor them. Excellent. And bring them when they're ready. Instead, I want to bring them part of this group so they can start taking some things on. So.
Oh, fantastic. Fantastic. Well, but thank you everybody for coming together today. I really appreciate it. Again, sorry it was a shorter meeting, but with it being July and everything, I'm like, everybody will probably be okay with it. I'm sorry I don't know more about the SWP stuff. I was so surprised on Monday when all of a sudden it was like, but you've got till December of 23. I'm like, no, we're spending this out. So I'll let you guys know once I have another meeting, get some more information on that. But thank you for everything that you're doing. We will continue to do good work. That's all we can do, right? Like We're going to keep getting the students here and keep helping with teacher preparation. If I hear any more on that statewide proposal, I will absolutely let everybody know. And also one thing, Laura, I wanted to let you know specifically with your campus, within the CPTP group that is with at El Camino and Rio Hondo and Cerritos, there is a chance that they may get 2 more years of additional funding, and I don't know if that funding will allow for scaling. I have already talked to the group and said Santa Monica is the next campus we need to look at. They've showed high interest, and so if any other campuses are interested in that mentoring project that a couple of us are working on, after this academic year, it's either going to shut down or we're going to get 2 more years, I think, to scale. And honestly, I think there were 15 projects that were funded, and they end up funding 13 out of the 15 for the next 2 years. And so if there's anybody on who's interested in kind of getting that mentorship piece going, you know, in a more formalized with, you know, funding and a lot of rules that go along with it as well. But let me know, because I'm already starting to like earmark different. So like Laura, you guys spoke to me a year or more ago about it. And so I keep including you in the conversation, or your campus in the conversation. So Mike and Marini, no pressure, but if your campuses decide that this might be something you want to look into, let me know, because as those conversations are happening, then I can bring your names and your campuses forward as well. Okay. Okay. Well, thank you so much, everybody. Have a wonderful last couple moments
Thank
of summer.
you.
Squeeze them out till the very end, and be safe, and look forward to seeing you guys soon. Take care. Have a great rest of the day.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you so much.